It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Welcome back to the podcast. Got the honeymoon recap with my wife, Abby. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Jeff.
That's so weird. It was cool calling you my wife on the trip. This is my wife.
Yeah.
I said I liked also telling people that we were on our honeymoon. Some people didn't really seem to care.
No one really cared.
People said congratulations, which was cool. But yeah, I think most people were like, okay, whatever, guy. But anyway, so we spent week and a half on the Kenai Peninsula. We got a guide on the lower part of the Kenai River on Tuesday. The next day we went to the Kasilof to fish for kings and then the Nilchik to fish for kings. And then day 3 we went down to Homer to check that out and then fished the Nilchik, and then I went to the Kasilof one last time. So I think we'll start off with the Kenai and the Kasilof. What was kind of your impressions of those rivers? That was kind of the most, I guess, sought after part of the trip. I was really excited about the rainbows and then a chance at a king salmon. What was your first impression?
First impression. I mean, the first day when we did the guided float on the Kenai, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. I caught the biggest, maybe fish of my life.
That was huge.
Contender with my 17-pound halibut. Just a massive rainbow trout, which was cool.
It ended up being like 28, 29 inches. We didn't get an official measurement, but he said it was right about just under 30, which is sweet.
So that was cool. And then the Kasilof, I was excited to catch a king on a fly rod, but there were a lot of people fishing with bait and just fishing in ways that I'd never even seen before. And I was pretty over it after the first day.
Yeah. We talked about how we were curious as to why our guide was asking us about and kind of guiding us to going on the Kenai. Because if there were kings on the Kasilof, we thought, well, we want kings. But then we said we wanted to fly fish. And so when he kept saying, okay, we'll go on the Kenai. Yeah, that'll be great. Okay. He said, yeah, and you can fish from shore for the Kasilof. And it didn't really make sense until we fished the Kenai, had fun with the rainbows, and the next day going to the Kasilof and just saw no one was fly fishing. Everybody who was fishing for kings was doing this cast about 10, 15 feet with a really heavy anchor and a couple of feet of line, and then a hook with just a token piece of yarn or something on it.
Yeah, and all the guides were doing the back trolling thing, which, like you said, you're like, he probably just didn't want to get laughed off the river with a couple of people on his drift boat just casting fly rods.
Yeah. So it made total sense. And I guess it makes sense if you're a guide and you're seeing that these people want to fish and it's totally the wrong way. You don't really want to deter them. You don't.
Yeah.
Well, fine, we're going to go somewhere else, and we'll find someone who will take us on the Kasilof in a drift boat to fish for kings. But no one was fly fishing. It was not the way to do it.
Yeah, I wish he would have just told us that.
Yeah, well, I think we would have been, okay.
That's
all right,
true.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know if other people would have been as, I don't know. I think you have to be careful, I guess maybe. So it made a lot of sense when we saw what was going on there, what the program really was. And like I've snagged for kings before here in Ketchikan at the terminal run where you can snag, it's legal. And then Whale Pass, the terminal coho fishery there, snagged there, and you've snagged there. Mm-hmm. So there's no, that just is what the program is. You go there and you're going to snag and just trying to get meat.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out why we were so irritated by the people that were all flossing. Like, it is technically legal. That's what everyone does there. And, we're not opposed to snagging. We've snagged before, but it was just like, I don't know. Why do you think it was so frustrating?
Was it legal or was it just the way that they couldn't do anything about? Because it did say in the mouth, right? And I'm not sure the last time I was eating a hamburger and like I shoved it into my cheek, right? Like I hit my mouth. So when I'm trying to eat, it goes in my mouth for the most part, unless the burger's big or whatever. But I think part of it was expectation. I don't know how many times I've talked about expectation and reality, but I really wanted to just swing for a king on the Kasilof.
Yeah.
And it was fun. We had our switch rods, and I just felt like I was casting great. Felt like I was covering water, and it was low and slow, and using those flies we got from Brad at Alaska Fly Fishing Goods in Juneau. And in that little section that we were fishing, when we couldn't, you don't look upriver, you don't look downriver, you can't see anybody else, and you got this glacial blue water. Like, it was fun. It was cool.
Yeah. It was cool that because we were fishing in such a different way, like no one was trying to fish near us because the water that we needed to fish was so different than the water they needed to fish.
Yeah. It would have been nice to hook up with one, but then it started to become very clear just how many hours it was going to take to maybe catch a fish.
Yeah.
Because anybody who wasn't doing the flossing was fishing with bait, which again was legal. It's fine.
Well, yeah.
And then maybe some other people. Some people were using fly rods to do the flossing program.
I know. That threw me off so much because at first I was like, oh, so many fly fishers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. But you did hook that one fish on the Ninilchik.
Yeah. And that was a kind of a bonus trip because Anchor River was closed. Deep Creek was closed to Kings because they're and the Ninilchik there was a misprint in the regulations that said that it had closed, I think, on the 16th or something like that. And so we were talking to a guy on the Kasilof, and he said that they had fished the Ninilchik, and you and I were like, clown, like it's closed. Just thinking that. And then we read the emergency regulations that said they increased the amount to 2?
Yeah, it was actually open, and they had increased. You can keep 2 hatchery fish, I think.
Yeah. No natives, but you could catch hatchery. And so we went down there, and it's a definition of a creek.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It was like 2 or 3 hoses were left on, and that was about all the creek was. And it was hard to figure out. I looked at it from like a trout perspective, and this looks like a nice cut bank. There could be, a 15 to 16 inch rainbow trout holding underneath that, or in this little trough there could be. So going down there, just kind of looking at the water, and then all of a sudden there's this guy chasing this king salmon downriver, and I thought, oh my gosh,
on a fly rod,
and he's got his kid on his back.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how old is that kid.
3.
About 3.
Elijah,
just getting rained on. Kid didn't care.
Yeah.
He was just kind of watching the whole thing happen. And we just got this brand new trout net, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you want me to net it for you? Which is always times people try to be helpful and they end up being not helpful. It's like, hey, let me net your
I was
fish.
wondering, because you were like, do you need a net? And I was wondering what went through his head, if he was like, oh no. Or, like what was he thinking?
This helpful person is going to knock the fish off or do something wrong or, Yeah. And so he said, I made sure, I was like, hey, would you like some help? I can try net it for you. And he said, that would
or
be
you
nice.
offered him the net. You said, or do you want to do it? And he was like, you can do it.
Naturally, so then I got in a great spot and I missed the fish. And this thing is, it's probably at least 20 pounds, 20 to 22 or 3, so a really nice fish, especially for how small the water is. So when it's going from these little holes through these little riffles, like half of it's sticking out of the water.
Yeah.
And then there would be like a little bit of a dip, and I'd try to have it be guided into, and it would just like juke me. Just at the last second, it would move left or right, and so I ran after it. And I tried to get ahead of it, and I wasn't running right after it. I'd go around, and then at the next little spot, I'd give another scoop, and I ended up getting it. And he took it. It was an awesome fish. So that was the Ninilchik, and then was it that day or the next day that I hooked one?
It was that day, because...
It was that day, yeah. Went further down, and right at the mouth, there was some fish in there, and hooked one, which is awesome. And then all of a sudden these kids show up. And it was awful. There was this steep embankment, and there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 fish maybe in this really, really deep spot. And these kids.
They come down right next to us.
Right next to us.
Right off the bat, one kid hooks one.
Yeah.
That's probably why we dislike
yeah,
them so much.
He flossed. Right off the bat, he flossed. And he was looking at it, and I was fishing pretty close to you. And so I moved down a little bit closer to you so he didn't try to like just come down right in between us. And he ended up being like 5 feet up river from me.
I know.
And like right to where I was casting. Because I was trying to like high stick this thing. I had a little bit of weight to get it down. But I wasn't using like a floss type method. And so he comes in, just plops in this, pound of weight.
Well, and
it's
just it's this area right at the mouth where it's low tide. There's a ton of fish we can see them jumping. They're all built up in this area. And so, I mean, I can't imagine it would be that hard to hit one.
No. Well, there was one that looked like it was nosing up a little bit into the rapids where it was kind of shallow. That's where he casted. And then just screams, fish on, Derek or Hubert, whatever, started calling his friends down. So they all descend, and I'm just, I don't want to leave because I don't want them to win.
Yeah.
But I also hated being there with them there. It was just,
but
was
also,
awful.
I mean, we watched them snag like 6 or 7 little bottom fish, sculpin.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
just
man.
kicking them back in the water, and it was rough. And again, I don't want to sound like some purist or whatever, because I've snagged.
Yeah.
Right. It is different. I will say that it is different when it's legal snagging. But again, I think part of it is just being unfamiliar with it. Like if that's the method and that's an accepted method.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Russian, which we did a couple days later, and that's what hundreds of people are doing to get
right.
reds,
And
it's fine.
Yeah. I think about, how much of it is that I just can justify anything to myself and how much of it is that, like, maybe it is fine because, I don't know, like, if we lived there and that was how we got our salmon, right? We live in Ketchikan and we can get salmon trolling
100%.
out of the boat or whatever fairly easily. I mean, you have to put in the work. But so if we lived up there and that was the program, like we'd probably be out there snagging, doing the exact same thing, putting up our fish for the winter. Or if I was from South Carolina and this was my trip to Alaska and I was like, I'm getting that kinger.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, so like I get why people do it.
Yeah, I don't begrudge them whatsoever for running the program. It wasn't like there was one guy out there who was doing something outrageous. But
yeah.
I do think it comes down to your starting point. And when I started fishing, my first memories were on the Klawak River, and there was no one else around. So it was me and my buddies, and so fishing meant solitude. So all my years growing up, from when we moved to Klawak when I was 5 up until I graduated, and even in the summers when I came home, it was about going to the river and being alone. And I think you had a similar start when you started fly fishing. It was in Yellowstone or Jackson Hole or somewhere like that?
Yeah, I mean, and just on small creeks near, like, the University of Wyoming Research Station. But yeah, and even, I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts, not fishing, but my experience with Alaska is Southeast Alaska, where we take the boat out somewhere and maybe we see another person or two, but usually you're kind of on your own, so.
Yeah. And I think the boat program's a little different, too, when people are trolling around for silvers. Yeah. Like, it's crowded, but someone could be fishing 30 feet lower than you or something. So you're not really, you're not that same water column. There's not 100 people within 400, 500 yards. So I think it's just kind of the expectation. I think I at least became a victim of that expectation. That's why it was so bothersome to me. And I didn't really get that last day that I went to the Kasilof and I fished and I was having fun fishing and I just saw that it wasn't going to happen. And I came to terms with that. Because the way to catch kings on the Kasilof is to back troll from a boat or use bait. And if I want to troll for kings, I'm going to troll for kings down here in Ketchikan. Where, so it was frustrating because I'd kind of, that was the expectation. That was kind of the guide. I wanted a nice big rainbow on the Kenai, and I wanted a king salmon, but it didn't happen. So when I came home that morning?
Afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah. So it was after the Nanilchik.
I'd already given up. I quit.
Yeah, it was over, and I was fine with that. We didn't go back to after day 3, we didn't go back to the Kasilov. And then Friday, which was day 4, we went on a hike. What was that? What was that?
Yeah.
I always want to say the Euclidna, but that's not. That's a river up by like Eagle River.
I don't know how to say this word.
Skilak?
Skilak?
Skilak.
Skilak? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
Went on a hike there, which is pretty sweet. And then we went to the Kenai River Brewing, which was interesting in Soldotna, because I thought Kenai was going to be like the big town, Kenai River, but Soldotna was at the crossroads, and Soldotna really seemed like the hip place to be. And driving into it, it seemed very like franchised.
Yeah.
It seemed like you could have been anywhere down south. Nanilchik, you're Nanilchik. Homer had like Homer feel, but I think we might not have seen if there was more of a franchised or commercialized route.
Yeah.
But downtown Soldotna seemed, I don't know, just different. Didn't seem like Alaska.
It seemed like all the same stores we have in Laramie.
Yeah.
In Wyoming.
But the 2 breweries there, St. Elias and Kenai River, it was interesting how they complemented each other, because St. Elias was awesome. They had excellent pizzas. So good. We crushed those things.
Yeah.
And then the Kenai River Brewing was more of like wings and burgers. So you didn't have 2 breweries that had, the same burger type thing. So we went back-to-back nights. One to St. Elias on Thursday, and then Friday went to the Kenai River Brewing, and it was excellent. Those wings, the wings at Kenai River Brewing,
the wings were so good. Yeah,
they were meaty and exceptional.
Yeah,
and I was really hungry, but I still think they were really good.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sometimes I can't trust myself because I get really hungry.
I thought my tacos were okay, but the chicken wings were.
I thought I made a mistake by not going with the special, which were the tacos. I stayed true to the bacon cheeseburger, and it
paid off.
It paid off. So then we transitioned at that point after those first days to the Upper Kenai. I think we mentioned before that we got our Airbnb, Ben, in Cooper's Landing, canceled our Airbnb at the Kenai River Cabins for no reason. Didn't let us know, and I sent him a couple messages saying, "Hey, is this a mistake? What's going on?" No response. So that got canceled. So we had to stay a night in Soldotna, and then we had to book a hotel in Moose Pass. So that ended up being kind of somewhat of a turning point. But at that point, we were transitioning from fishing the lower Kenai and Kasilov, and then seeing some of that stuff and the upper. But what did you like about the upper?
I mean, you could, if you walked 200 yards away from an access point, like, you were the only one fishing, which was just such a stark contrast. And then, I mean, I didn't catch any kings or anything for like 2 days. So then that first day in the Upper Kenai, catching 6 fish. I was like...
You were on it.
I was excited.
It was amazing how, like, most rivers have defining characteristics of their fish, because it's like they're a product of their habitat. And because of the glacial color of the Kenai, those things were like a silver and a very, very light blush. And they were beautiful, but in a way, like, They were very, very unique, and they just really fit in. They were very well camouflaged in that water. It was awesome to see that. I've caught, a good amount of those rainbows that have the blushy sides, and they're awesome to see. Like, never get tired of that for sure, but it's interesting to see, and it's really cool to see a fish that looks unique. And if you were to look at that, you'd say that's from a different sort of river. Like, what river is that from? And it was cool to see those rainbows that you were getting that were that color. The dollies I got were really, really bright, which I'd seen that before down here, but they were a lot bigger than I've caught
Yeah,
down here.
they were huge. Are they that bright because are they coming up all the way from the ocean?
I don't wait, the dollies or the rainbows?
The dollies.
Yeah,
Or
I think
maybe
so.
they run into the lake.
I think
and
they could
out.
go in the lakes. I think it's like a camouflage thing
Yeah.
because, like, when you look down to the water, you saw it was like that
Yeah, totally.
silty
yeah,
bluish.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I would assume that I've seen pictures of when they darken up when they're spawning, but like their non-spawning colors are super, just different and really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was super fun. It was really nice to kind of have the second part of the trip was going to be a lot of fun. And that first day on that Saturday, which was day 5, to just kind of get that difference. And this upper Kenai is going to be a lot of fun, a lot more access. There was no access on the lower Kenai. It was crazy.
There were like 2 spots that, I don't know, we fished, but we didn't catch anything.
There was like an inside corner.
They were like boat launches. They weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like every part of that. There was far more access on the Sacramento River in Redding. Like when you think of non-access, when you think of just terrible fishing, you think of like California is like stereotypical, but there are some great access points on rivers and city parks and things like that that allow people to have a lot of access. But the Kenai just had very, very little access, and it was tough.
And it just seems like everyone either lives there and has boats or rafts, or they're tourists that are just hopping on a drift boat. So no one is trying to wade fish it.
Yeah.
That's how it felt anyways.
Yeah.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Part of the reason why I wanted to get the guide on the first day that we were up there was to learn something so that we could go back and utilize that. And we did that on the upper or lower Sac. You know, you go out with Shane and then you kind of say, okay, this is kind of how it is. It's not going to be nearly as good because we're in a drift boat, but you can be in the same sort of vicinity and kind of see, and you can take that, and it's kind of an inside track, and you can circumvent some of that learning. But you can't do that on the Kenai because we were miles away, and there was no way that we could get anywhere near where we caught those nice rainbows. So it just was rough. But the upper Kenai had better access, which was a lot of fun. And then Sunday, which is day 6, we went to the Russian. I was kind of defeated at that point. I was kind of tired, kind of out of it.
I was kind of surprised you even wanted to go to the Russian.
We'd fished the upper Kenai and we hadn't had success. We lost fish.
I know. Yeah.
We had such a great start on Saturday, and then Sunday we just losing fish. Lost a really nice one. I hadn't caught a rainbow yet. You hadn't caught a dolly. And that's kind of what we wanted to do. And it was $12 to go to the Russian, and it was later in the day. And it was every bit it was a spectacle.
Yeah. Yeah, me being not knowing, I was like, I want to see the spectacle. Let's walk down to the end. So we walk all the way down to the end to see a high concentration of people fishing, and then we have to walk way, way up past all these people fishing. And I was like, we should have just walked upriver to start with.
It was definitely a social event.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see, too, where people were standing. Because there were, if you were to take the people out, you would have thought, okay, there's a nice deep hole, but there's a kind of good transition point. Like, they could be, like this 15 to 20 foot run, but there were people standing and like consolidating the fish into like a much smaller run within casting range. But
Do you think that was intentional, though, right?
I think it was intentional, but I'm not sure if it was necessarily effective, because I think sometimes if you like, if you like,
Like they're just going to kind of like go past you real fast.
I think they're gonna go really fast. You're gonna scare them. You're gonna spook them. You're gonna.
Yeah.
It's just not natural. You can see some fish holding and sight fish, but with those massive groups of people, with everyone throwing that stuff, I think you're just gonna push the fish really, really fast. But I mean, I don't know anything, and obviously people that's
Yeah.
effective. That's what they do, and that people were catching fish, and we went down. We saw one guy who dropped a beer, and it was just floating down,
Yeah.
and it was.
That wasn't cool.
And there were also people who just, went down there, took their kids. It was cool because it was Father's Day, and that was cool to see. But getting up past those trails, and I loved that they're like on that one side that was the state land, I guess. You could only access the river through access points. Everything else is cordoned off to protect the habitat, because a lot of these rivers get ruined because you take out, and this has happened on the Klawak River too, where they've taken out a lot of the trees and the branches and the things on the shore
Just
to get
people
better
walking.
access.
Yeah, it just ruins the vegetation, and then the soil, the sediment gets washed into the creek, and it kills fish.
Yeah. You have to have that stuff. And on the Klawak, people have taken chainsaws down there and they've removed some snags so that they have better access to fishing. But that's the stuff, like the fry need that. So it was awesome to see just how wild it was on that side.
Yeah.
Just ferns everywhere, and it looked really nice and lush. But the other side, which was, I think, that may have been some other land or whatever, but you could just see the difference, because people were there, they're on the bank, they were hanging out, they were walking on the bank, and it was just all matted down, and it was pretty rough.
Yeah. Kind of missing the point there, but
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting though. That one guy, he kind of walked up at the same time as us, and he was like spotting, stalking fish, and he was the only person I saw with a fish.
Yeah.
And I mean, he probably caught. I guess it was kind of slow when we were there, and he caught a fish in probably
Yeah.
about an hour or so.
Yeah.
And he was just walking along the river looking for fish, and then
Well, and then
Getting
you hooked
into 'em.
one.
I hooked one by accident.
I was not really feeling it. I was just kind of drive-by fishing a little bit and working down a little bit faster, because there were some pretty decent runs. There were some runs that definitely looked like they would hold rainbows and dollies later on in the season when things have really moved up and got going. So I was moving a little bit faster than you, and you said, "Did you hear me yelling?" Like, not at all. Like, I was a big fish and it was jumping. I was like, "Gosh, dang it!" So me and my sort of impatient, this is a spectacle, and I'm, moving really fast with this water because I'm not going to catch anything. Naturally, Abby hooked one up, but
I know, and then it was a bummer because everyone near us like saw me hook that fish, and then immediately because I followed it downriver a little bit, and then lost it, and then everyone had filled in where I had hooked it, and I was like, dang it.
Well, we'd gone far enough up, which wasn't too far, but we had a stretch of maybe 200 yards to ourselves.
Yeah.
But there were people who were upriver, maybe 200 yards from that, who were starting to work down because they were finishing out, and they happened to kind of come around the corner when that was happening. And then shortly thereafter is when we saw the black bear, which is cool.
That was cool.
So I went to the Russian River, Abby hooked a sockeye, and we saw a black bear. So had you brought in that sockeye and we had seen a brown bear, that would have been...
We would have stayed longer.
Probably.
Maybe not with the brown bear. I don't know.
No, if it was on the other side, maybe. But
I'm not fishing with a brown bear.
no, it's on the other side of the river, though.
That's not a big enough river.
It's true. It would take some effort, though. So I think you could probably maybe start.
They tell you if
start
you're
your getaway.
fishing and there's a bear, you cut the line immediately and walk away.
But then you also have these people who are up further north that have bears that are like right next to them.
Yeah, but I
Are you supposed to run?
No.
You cut the line, then do what?
Then you walk away. Like, because they don't want bears to associate fish with people, and
Yeah,
then
that's true. Yeah.
they see
it's
people that are
splashing,
just
yeah.
like out hiking or whatever. They're like, people, fish, food.
If it's making a big commotion, yeah, then cutting it out because they associate that struggle with fish. They don't want the bears doing that. Yeah. So that was Sunday. On Monday, which was day 7, went to down to Seward. We left our palace in Moose Pass. I don't want to sound like, because I'm not.
So we booked this place in Moose Pass because the Airbnb got canceled like a week before, and this is a super popular part of the United States to go on vacation. So you can't just rebook a place. So the closest place we could even find to Cooper Landing was Moose Pass. And this was the only place in Moose Pass. Other than that, we would have had to be either in Seward or like Homer.
It was the solstice, Father's Day, so there was a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on, and it was tough to get that. So I'm glad that we found the spot. And when we rolled up, I was pretty excited because beautiful view, right on the water, and I just envisioned kind of having some food and then just sitting outside our room and just looking out at the lake and the mountains. But they put us in this back.
The motor lodge.
The motor lodge. I was like, okay, no problem. We're still pretty close, and they have a nice little dock out front, and you can borrow or rent a canoe. We go in the room, and it's a double. Like,
No, it's like twin beds.
Twin beds. So I'm okay. There's no fridge. Yeah, okay, that kind of sucks. There's no coffee maker. Yeah, okay, that kind of sucks. But I'm not super high maintenance. Like, all right, we can figure that out.
There's no closet.
There's no clock. There's no clock. How do you not have a clock?
Yeah.
And so.
And then on top of there being no breakfast, there's no continental breakfast. There's no restaurant breakfast. There's nowhere in Moose Pass that opens before 9 a.m.
I don't want to sound like we're, oh my gosh, how dare you not feed me, fresh bakery goods. We're not high maintenance, but there are certain things that you kind of expect from a place that you're paying $120 a night.
Yeah, like eating my granola bar for breakfast would have been fine if I could have made some hot coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just one thing too many.
Yeah.
And I understand that, certain areas might be difficult because you got COVID, you guys have got these other expenses and things like that. And they did have a deal with the place across the street. But the place across the street wasn't open on Mondays.
Yeah.
And didn't open before 9, 5 days out of the week. And so if you're going to outsource your continental breakfast or way to get food, that place should probably be open, right? Yeah. So the decor in the lodge there was cool. And we had a burger. It was fine. I had a burger. What'd you have?
Yeah, I had a burger.
A burger too?
There were only burgers. And
Solid burgers, not bad.
yeah, I mean, it was fine, but it was just, we'd booked an Airbnb that had a little kitchen and that kind and it was just like, oh, we got our twin beds for our honeymoon.
Yeah. Yeah, great. When you look at reviews, and it's kind of unfortunate when you look at reviews, is that a lot of people mistake their excitement for Alaska and things that place can't control.
Yeah.
And they give the
this place had like
benefit to
4.5 stars or something on the reviews.
Yeah, and how do you give 4.5 stars to something that doesn't have
So I started reading them, and it was like, awesome location, love the hiking,
it's so
beautiful mountains.
Yeah, it's like, well, the mountains have nothing to do with what you're saying. So I
was like, we could be camping and all those things would apply.
Yeah. I don't trust, I don't like comments. I don't like reviews because a lot of people do that. You look at gear reviews, right? Oh, just got them out of the box. Can't wait to wear them. Like 5 stars because of something you haven't even worn yet.
Yeah.
Like after a couple of seasons, let me know. So I don't want to sound high maintenance or demanding or whatever, but they're just certain things that.
Or I'd just like a heads up, like, oh, if you're staying here, you should bring your Jetboil to make coffee.
Yeah, 100%.
Then we could have brought our Jetboil.
Absolutely. Then I know. I'm like, all right, well, I'm paying $120 a night because there's nothing else around. but I know going in that I'm not going to have any of these sort
Yeah.
of things.
Set my expectations low.
Yeah. So
But it was fun.
yeah, it was fine. Yeah, we made it work. And then went to, actually on that Sunday, before we went to Seward and hiked to Exit Glacier, we went to the Cooper Landing Brewery,
Oh yeah,
which was awesome.
that place was cool.
It looked really cool.
They had an awesome food truck. Best burger we had, I think.
Yeah, I think Best Burger was at a food truck outside of it. Best logo we saw for a brewery.
Yeah.
Maybe best logo of anything that we saw around there. But they
Yeah,
didn't
I
have
mean,
like
Double
a cool
Shovel
shirt.
was pretty cool.
Yeah,
but-
Double Shovel for sure. They didn't have like that T-shirt that's just
Yeah.
that simple T-shirt with the logo, because the logo is super, super cool.
But
But
Yeah.
we're talking with, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but on Wednesday, which was yesterday, we went to Anchorage, and we spent some time. We were talking to Jack from Double Shovel about just the culture in Cooper Landing, and how it's all modern.
yeah.
And it's like a fish. It's like a trout bum fishing thing. So you could be anywhere.
Yeah, you feel like you're in Colorado.
You see Sims logos. You see Rio.
Yeah.
You see all that sort of stuff. And he was saying that a lot of people that live there didn't really go for the.
It's not like a lot of some kind of touristy places. They embrace the history and the historic lodges and things, and there, it's hip. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool place for sure.
Yeah. I would like to see more history, because it looked like there was. It was whoever Cooper guy.
And there's a bunch of mining history in there, right?
Yeah, it was some Cooper guy who came all the way up there and found some gold, and there was like a little bit of a gold rush, and settled stuff. And at some point, it got connected to Kenai, and then it got connected to Anchorage. And I mean, it's cool history that you could
Yeah.
do something with. But so it was interesting. And then Moose Pass, I don't know what the history there is. It's along the railroad, which makes some sense.
Yeah.
But so going down to Seward, which was pretty sweet. I've been to Seward before, which is awesome. There's some earthquake history, and then went to Exit Glacier and hiked up. It was like 8 miles round trip, something like that. That we went up this.
Yeah, we
trail.
didn't make it the whole way, but
Yeah,
pretty close.
We wanted to get to Harding Glacier. We had a really good meal, awesome breakfast at
Oh yeah, in Seward.
It's
It's a fancy little place in a hotel.
it's like an old school Victorian. There's like 5 tables,
Yeah.
something like that. Great breakfast, and then went on the hike. Wanted to get to Harding ice field, but couldn't because there was still a lot of snow. It was a big snow year, but that was a lot of fun to go
Yeah,
up there and
we
see
got
that.
up pretty high. Got some awesome views, and
Yeah. And then Moose Pass again, hiked up to an alpine lake, which I posted a picture of, but I didn't put the name of it. And someone actually commented on social media, said, "Thanks for not asked is this the lake?" And I said, "Yep." And she said, "Thanks for not naming it." I was like, "All right, good. That's good." I think you can really get into, you fall into that, I just went to this lake, and you fail to realize that that's might be somewhat well kept. People might go to this spot to hike, but they might not know that there's trout there. And that might be your spot. And if someone else advertises it, that's kind of being the good guest.
yeah, because
So-
it's interesting because we went to another lake that a lot is written on the internet about the grayling fishing, and there's like trophy grayling fishing, and it's a great hike and all this stuff. And so it was interesting to go to that lake, and we didn't see a fish there. We didn't, no rises, nothing cruising the shorelines, and we spent a good amount of time just casting into different places.
Yeah.
We
Switch
found the inlet
flies,
stream.
like-
We swung through the inlet area where there's always fish there, right? Like nothing. So yeah, it was a contrast between a lot is written about that one, no fish, and then we hiked into this other lake that we really enjoyed, caught some nice rainbows. I don't think I haven't seen anything written about it, but
No.
it's kind of
You kind of wonder what the timetable was. I wonder if so much was written about it that it ended up being not good anymore. It's also funny. We heard an advertisement when we were driving down to Homer. Like some guy got on and was talking about the fishing report. And now the fishing report with whoever it was.
With
and,
some guide or something.
yeah, like, oh, you know, picking up some fish. It was the most vague, ambiguous. It was hilarious.
Yep.
It was so
We're fishing
funny.
in the water and we're catching some fish here and there.
We're picking up some fish. And
You know,
they're really
the fish
good.
are hitting some of the spinners and the hooks and
Yeah, you know, if you're fishing in the morning, it's going to be great. You know, you have that really good morning bite, and then the evening bite's really good, but you can pick them up throughout the day. It's just like, wait, what? It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny just to pick up just all that stuff on a trip. Like, it's fun, and you can kind of make fun of it. It's nice to not be super serious about it. But man, I had so much fun up there. It was great.
fun.
We were ranking the Kenai Peninsula, and I put it at an 8.5 just because there's so much to do there.
Yeah, like we didn't do anything that we really set out to do, but it was still like a ton of fun.
Yeah. Like I was disappointed we didn't get a king salmon.
Yeah.
Had a couple chances. Well, maybe had chances. I don't know. Like a king salmon might not have ever seen my fly, but there's just so much to do. And, you know, choosing one day, let's go like walk on top and look down on a glacier. And then later on that afternoon, fish the upper Kenai for fish or for rainbows, you know, and there's just so much to do. It was super cool, but it definitely got the feeling, as a lot of places do, that the time to be there was 20 to 30 years ago.
Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah, it would have been awesome.
And that's kind of where everything is. You know, you and I have talked about some of the old episodes of Randy Newberg's show where he says, yeah, this tag is over the counter. You can get it. Now
like, no,
you can't.
it's not.
You know, it's what a difference the internet makes with that. And so I think you gotta keep that in mind when you go to these places. And I think I lost track of that a little bit at the Kasilof because I was a little bit irritated because I wanted to catch a king salmon on my own terms, but I have to realize that, you know, I'm not the first person who's wanted to do that
Yeah.
in the most effective ways. And again, like with that fishing style, you can't be offended by it. It's just different, and you just have to accept it that it's different than what you expected or different than what you grew up with. It doesn't make it wrong, you know. It doesn't make them wrong or stupid or immoral or whatever. It's just, all right, man. This is the program.
Yeah, it's all in comparison with your own experiences and your own expectations.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's about it. And then we walked around Anchorage.
Yeah.
Put a lot of miles in yesterday walking around Anchorage. Went by and saw Anchortown Dogs with Daniel from Alaska Wild Project, which is sweet. Has some spicy caribou dogs, which is pretty sweet. And then we went to see Jack over at Double Shovel.
Yeah, that place
And-
is awesome.
Yeah, we went there. We got a sampler, and then
We got another
got
sampler
another
of the ones we
sampler,
hadn't
and we we're kind of like, because Jack had a meeting, and the Alaska Wild Project had me on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and so like Jack knew that I was coming up, and I was just going to come by to kind of say hi, and he said to give us a tour, and so we're like, well, I guess we'll kind of stick around for the tour. We have nothing else going on.
I wanted to see the tour because I kind of like.
Yeah.
I don't brew a lot, but it's super interesting to me.
Yeah. So he has a meeting, and then when he's done with it, he gives us a tour. And it's awesome because it wasn't like it was about the cider making, but it's more about the technology behind it. And like they're doing some really cool stuff when it comes to capturing carbon and then reusing that.
Yeah, to carbonate the ciders, that's awesome.
That's really cool.
Like,
and
not many people are doing that
no,
anywhere.
And it's not I'm going to do this to say that I can do this, to say that I like the earth more than you. It's just a good economic entrepreneurial thing to be able to do. Like if you can use technology to make things more efficient and also benefit like those sort of things, it's great.
And
when
it
people
almost
are doing
seemed
that.
like, yeah, they were like, he was so excited about just the process of making cider and testing out different things and just having fun with it. And as a byproduct, they get great cider. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
it was awesome. 2 engineers and a geologist.
yeah.
But yeah, so you got a great tour there and got to sample some of the stuff, and that was awesome. Then we walked from there down to downtown, finally found a place to eat. It was insane how long the waits were for some of these places.
Oh my
It was like
Yeah.
East Coast. I remember when my brother and cousin were going to college back east, like people don't eat dinner till like 8, 9 o'clock. I'm used to Mama Lund having dinner ready at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock. So you were at the table 5:59 rolling up because we're saying grace at 6.
Yeah.
So like that late dinner thing was crazy. We went to, was it Glacier?
Yeah, first we asked the place in the hotel, like, oh, how long's the wait? And the guy's like, oh, 15, 20 minutes. And we're like, oh, we'll check some other places.
What an error that was. The Glacier Brew Pub sounded awesome, looked awesome. It was like an hour 45 wait, and it was already 7:45.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So went to
And-
Humpy's, which is kind of was a hip place 10, 15 years ago, maybe still somewhat hip, but it was kind of one of the original sort of things. But it was awesome. The Captain Cook Hotel was awesome. Like, shout out to Mom for giving us a night in that room, which was, I wasn't sure, and we were talking about this on the way up. Are we going to love the Captain Cook because it's such a stark contrast to the place in Moose Pass? Yeah. But it was legit. It was awesome. We got a nice workout this morning in the gym.
Yeah.
And then had an awesome breakfast there. So just a great trip, and really appreciate everybody who provided us the opportunity to kind of go out to eat on our honeymoon, people who gave us money as presents. So it was just an awesome last 2 weeks, getting married, sharing that with friends, and then going on this great trip, and people providing us opportunities to really make the most of it. And it was really special. I know a couple times we were talking about how I've never had a point in my life where I had so many great options to choose from. It wasn't like there's the right choice, there's the wrong choice. There was like, we could go down to this river and fish this, or we could go do this hike, or we could go do this, or we could go to this. And like, they're all great options. It's
Yeah.
like, there was no bad choices, and it was super cool. And it was just a great, awesome 2 weeks for sure.
Yeah.
Period. I said it best.
Yep.
Good. All right. Well, we'll put an end to this podcast here. Thanks for everybody who's been buying the book at Parnassus in Ketchikan. It's also available at Rainy Retreat Books in Juneau, Mosquito Books in Anchorage at the airport, miserableparadise.com, and also on Amazon. So appreciate all the support there. Make sure you check out the mediocrealaskan.com. And that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for listening.